Hello, my beautiful red nail energy community. I am coming at you with a solo episode that just sort of created itself. And I love it when that happens. And I'm really excited to talk to you about these things that have kind of been pinging and nudging me. And like I said, almost sort of just spoken themselves into existence. And I've had kind of a busy day and I've been all over the place. And I got home and I had a free moment in time that I thought to myself, I am just going to sit down and record and see what happens. And we love that. So, wherever you are finding yourself right now, I am just sending you the utmost love and hoping that you are having a wonderful, beautiful, magnetic day. I feel like right now I am in freaky flow, freaky alignment. Like the things that are happening, the opportunities that are presenting, the way things are falling into place, it's kind of wild. And with that, I'm having so many invitations to get in my own way, so many invitations to kind of like intercept or question or go back to old patterns. And if you're listening and you resonate with that, one, please let yourself be human. When we are trying to change the outcomes and we are trying to raise to higher vibrations, it's not something that just happens effortlessly and it's like a flip that is switched and all of a sudden we are there and we're never going back. I think that it's so human and normal to kind of question things or be like, oh, this is too good to be true. But there's so many things I've learned, especially over the last maybe 6 months or so, that have really caused me to be able to reframe those thoughts and continue kind of co-creating with the universe and getting really playful and curious with it. And so I just want to kind of share some of those things that I've learned and I guess just like give a little life update of like where I'm at and some of the things that have been happening and share some anecdotes and just chat with you wherever you are finding yourself today. So grab a little cup of coffee. I'm way too many milligrams of caffeine in today, but we're still going. So join me and let's chat. The first thing I want to talk about is the fact that the universe, God, source, higher creator, higher frequency, whatever way resonates the most with you, is always listening and always speaking to us. The question we have to ask ourselves is, are we in a space of listening and receiving? Or are we just outputting? There are always so many signs and synchronicities that are surrounding us. And I think sometimes we get so buried in our own white knuckling of how we think something should be that we miss all of the things that are happening around us, all of the nudges, all of the little tiny yeses or nos or whispers that are happening. And until we can kind of calm ourselves and find especially a deep trust in the universe and in what is happening around us, we will continue to find ourselves in spaces where we are lacking clarity, we're feeling exhausted, we're feeling like we're forcing things, and we are having to almost like chase rather than just attract the things into our life that are meant to be there. And so then on the flip side of that, when we do find ourselves in some version of like a deep flow, it is the most amazing feeling. It feels so good to receive. It feels so good to receive. It feels so good to not have to force things so much and to just allow them to happen. And I promise you, if you apply some of the principles that I'm going to speak about in this episode, you will be able to get to a space where you start strengthening that trust muscle and allowing magic and beauty and surprise to come into your life. And it is amazing. Some of the signs and synchronicities that I want to talk about are very daily and accessible, I guess. If you've listened to any of the episodes that I've had with my friend Steph, Conversations with the Universe, and we also did a New Year's Eve episode, she's brilliant at being able to observe and receive. And every time she's out in the community, every time she's on a walk or spending time with friends or in a new environment, she's so aware of what's going on around her. And it gives her these little conversations from higher powers all day long. So she has these yes signs and no signs that she kind of, and that's oversimplified, but easy for anyone listening. She kind of has things that are like, move toward this. And then maybe something that is like pause and maybe don't just dive right into that. And I'd encourage you, if you're listening, just let whatever is the first thing that flutters into your mind as something that is a yes. For me, lemons are one. My dog is named Lemon, but it's also something where I have found in so many moments of my life, I will walk into a room and there will be like a lemon dish towel. Or one day I was having a really beautiful conversation with my mom and we were walking in a mall in Arizona and I looked over and there was a coffee cart completely full of lemon themed things. So like lemon glassware, lemon dish rags, lemon hot pads, whatever those things are called, that you get hot things out of the oven with, oven mitts. And I remember I snapped a photo of it and I sent it to my friend Steph because she and I had determined like lemons were one of my yes signs. And it just feels so good to be able to have these little moments and kind of nudges throughout the day that you're either in the right spot or to maybe pause and just reframe. And something that she always says that I really love and I really love to kind of hone in on is it's not so much about like where the sign is at or in what regard you're seeing it. It's not like if there was something that was a hesitation sign for you, say for her, I know pigs is one of the ones for her. So it's not like if she's walking through the mall and she looks over and there's a pig shirt outside of a store. It's not so much don't enter this store is bad, as much as it is what were your thoughts that you were thinking when you looked over and saw the pig. It's a lot more about connecting with yourself. So maybe as she was walking, she was daydreaming about some person she met and how they're the love of her life and she's going to future trip them into existence. And then she looks over and sees that pig. And instead of saying like that store is dangerous, it's, ooh, I was just reverting into old patterns in my thoughts just now by thinking about this person that I don't really even know and kind of going down this rabbit hole of what our life is going to be like. And the universe and God and creator are telling me, hey, pump the brakes for a second. That thought is not serving you. And it's maybe good to have a little bit of that hygiene of your thoughts and going, ooh, that was an old pattern. And I'm kind of, running down in this way. I was speaking with somebody this last week who was sharing with me that like elephants and frogs and wolves and a lot of elements of kind of nature and these different forces have been brought into his life in different examples and scenarios and serve now as something that is empowered and embodied and brings a wholeness and almost a peace around some of the uncertainties that we experience in life. And I think that having those types of signs allows us to be so playful as we co-create with the universe and allows us to just be more aware. And that's really at the end of the day, all we are calling in is awareness. If we're on autopilot and we're white knuckling and forcing and wielding, we're sure as heck not going to notice if we look over and there's like a frog figurine or somebody's wearing a wolf t-shirt or whatever it may be. But if we're embodied and we're dropped in all of our surroundings, we're going to be a lot more aware at what we're looking at and we'll allow the universe to kind of be playful with us too. And we'll start to think about our thoughts. It's like metacognition, right? It's something where if we are allowing ourselves to go down rabbit holes and spin out and spiral, and we never have something that nudges us away from that and maybe gets us out of our minds and drops us into our bodies a little bit, we will find ourselves repeating patterns over and over again and then wondering like, why am I not able to change the outcomes here? I'm trying to think my way to a new outcome. And that's exactly it. We cannot think our way or outthink or outsmart what's happening around us, but we can drop in and get to a place where we are so much more observant and aware and able to allow. And that is where so much magic happens, is when we're just releasing our grasp. We're not forcing anything. And so much has the opportunity to allow when we're in a space like that. There's other aspects beyond kind of coming up with our signs and symbols, such as angel numbers, seeing repeated themes, coincidences, which are obviously, in my opinion, almost never. So I think that at the end of the day, it may be one of those things where you think of somebody and then you see them that day, or you think of them and then they message you, or you, sometimes it can even be not a great thing. Maybe it's like you think about something that is, gosh, I really don't want to speak any of these things into existence. let's just, I don't know. I'm having a hard time because I don't want to say anything out loud that I don't want to happen. That's how deeply I trust. Anyway, let's just say that you even have a thought of something like, I'm going to be so late. And then it does happen where it's like something crazy happens that then like snowballs and snowballs and snowballs. And it's almost like if I had thought differently about that and dropped in and allowed, I wouldn't have actually almost called into existence this outcome that I really didn't want. And so often there are these things, it's almost like our deepest fears realized, because without recognizing it, we're putting so much energy into this thing that we don't want that we're fueling it into our lives. And that's where it's like, oh my gosh, this was my worst nightmare. And here I am facing it. Or like, man, I mean, this is a crazy example, but it's like when I was engaged, we were in premarital counseling for like 8 months, and he'd previously been in a relationship with infidelity. And our pastor was even saying to us over and over and over again in premarital counseling, like, we don't even really have to talk about infidelity. We don't even have to go into that, because I know that you're an honest person, Macaile, and I know that you have already been down that road. He said my ex's name. And it was this really interesting thing where it was like, then I grasped onto almost the inability for that to exist within our relationship, while there was still something so deep inside of me that felt like that would be the greatest fear of mine realized. And now when I look back on it, I recognize that my energy around that, even though I acted as, it was like, that was the last thing on my conscious radar that could ever happen. But subconsciously, there was a fear and co-creation happening that literally spoke that into existence. And 7 days before my wedding, I found out he was cheating on me with somebody I considered a friend. And I think that when I look back at maybe my lack of semantic hygiene, the thoughts that I was having surrounding that, the energy that I was actually creating around this thing that I so desperately did not want to exist, and then the forces at play that were actually making that fear be realized, I almost think because I needed to experience that in order to truly detach from outcomes moving forward. I always say, if you can take my man from me, that's not my man. If you can take my job from me, that's not my job. If you can take my friends from me, those aren't my friends. If you can take any opportunity from me, that is not my opportunity. If you can take that ship from me, let the ship sail. I don't want to be on it. And that has taken a lot of time, effort, energy, healing, deep, deep shadow work to get to. But I have no fear now around things being taken away. And I'm saying that as somebody whose dad died when I was 25 years old. And there is, of course, moments where I am so invited to feel emotion about the fact that I will lose my mom someday, and that there are other people in my life I will lose, and there are forces outside of our control that are going to force us to experience really, really great deep loss and grief. And yet I know in my bones, worrying about that is not productive or helpful. There is no amount of worrying that will make someone stay if they're going to leave. There's no amount of worrying that will land the job that you were never meant to have. There's no amount of worrying that will absolve you from suffering. And so worrying and stressing and being like, oh my gosh, I think that he's interested in this other person, or he's giving this person attention, or any of those things, which then causes that domino effect where you sink your teeth in and sink your claws in, and all they want to do then is get away, and it's this total cat and mouse game that happens, is so disempowering. Versus, babe, you're going to do what you're going to do. And I know my worth, and I know my lane, and I'm in it, and I'm so focused on my lane that you can do whatever you're going to do in your lane. And if we make it to the finish line together, beautiful, amazing, love that for us. And if we don't, it wasn't our line to cross. It wasn't our race to win together. And there's something so much more beautiful across that finish line. And I have to have deep trust in that, or else every loss in life would ruin us, right? And when we look back at some of the things that change and that happen that feel so out of control in the moment, and of course are sad and deserving of being felt, it's like, wow, if that one thing hadn't happened, then this wouldn't have happened, and that wouldn't have happened, and all of these beautiful things would not have fallen into existence. And we can look at it as like sometimes the greatest loss we've ever experienced leads us to the most beautiful gains that we never would have had if we hadn't been in the trenches and we hadn't been drug kicking and screaming away from something that actually was never meant for us. And we all have to do that. We all have to learn the hard way sometimes. And we have to like cling and grasp to things that are not ours to hold in order to finally recognize how good it feels to let go and just allow. And so I think that when it comes to tuning into some of those synchronicities, for me, it just gives me a wink and a nudge that I'm on the right path. And it's almost like everywhere I go, then the craziest things start happening. And it's like, holy cow, I am so freaking powerful. You listening right now are so freaking powerful. And if you don't believe it, start playfully co-creating. Start creating space and allowing the universe to be right next to you side by side as you guys kind of whisper and giggle together and you tune in and listen to what they're saying and you just start to play with it and like reconnect with yourself in a way that allows you to be quiet and committed to yourself and sovereign in what you know to be true, and then just allow the magic to happen. And it sounds really easy and it sounds like that's too good to be true because I have to force and I have to fight and it should be hard and it should be performative or exhausting. And I'm telling you right now, it does not have to be like that. And if there's anything in your life as you listen to this that just keeps fluttering into your mind as something that you have been holding on to and grasping for and scared to let go of, my best advice for you is to just hold on to it a little more lightly and see what happens. Kind of let it go a little bit. See where it goes. See if it goes anywhere. See if it comes back stronger. See if you get clarity around it. Stop trying to fight so hard to hold on to it and just allow it to do what it's going to do. And I promise you that if it's not that thing, it's because it's something better. And that is such a beautiful, beautiful trusting feeling to rest into, even in those moments where it's like so hard to do so. There's such a big difference between forcing something and just allowing it to flow. And all of you know what that is like. You've all had a relationship, a job, a friendship, a degree, whatever you want to call it, a situation that it's like, I have to force this. And if I don't get this, if I don't get what I want, if I don't get the yes or the acceptance or the whatever it may be, like I won't exist any longer. And how often has that not come to fruition and you've not gotten it? And it's like the worst, most horrible thing in the entire universe. And really it then leads to so many things that would not have happened if you didn't have that no. And how much energy was exhausted into trying to create this outcome that was never meant to be yours anyway. I think that doubt and fear and limiting beliefs and all of these things end up blocking our ability to receive the guidance, the synchronicities, the clarity, the signs from the universe, because we're so focused on like why it won't work, why it won't happen. Dream bigger, babe. Believe it can happen. And then allow it to come in the exact way it's meant to come in. It's not going to look the way that you have decided it's going to look. In fact, I'm willing to bet it might be better. I'm willing to bet it might be a little bit uncomfortable at first because it doesn't look the way you thought it was going to look, because you're challenged in ways that you weren't anticipating to be challenged. And yet, when it starts to flutter in, it will make so much sense and it will be like, holy cow. Never in my wildest dreams could I have imagined things unfolding the way that they are. And yet here we are. And it's so beautiful. And it feels so, so, so good. And you realize in those moments that time is never wasted. Never. In fact, I'm going to tell you a little story that just popped into my mind about how time is never wasted. Back when I was working full-time as an occupational therapist, there was a moment where every single child at our clinic that was in foster care happened to be on my caseload. And it was a lot. It was like double digits. I think I had like 11 or 12. And it just worked that way. I have, having been sexually abused as a child myself, having a deep understanding of trauma and like the way that manifests, especially in kids. There were a few times where another therapist tried to pick one of these kids up that was maybe really withdrawn and really struggling with opening up and even being able to get through the evaluation process. And they would come grab me, and energetically, I just speak that language. And I think that my ability to be really receptive and safe and understanding of cues of somebody that's kind of in that shutdown space allowed me to really form these deep relationships. And there was these siblings, these two little girls. One was a tiny little baby and one was, I want to say, probably like 3 at the time. And they just stole my heart. They had been in a really, really unfortunate situation, a lot of abuse and neglect, and it was heartbreaking. And these 2 little girls took my heart the moment I saw them. In fact, it got to a point where they had then been tried to be reunified with some other family members that were also not safe and also not good. And I sat there and watched these things happen to the point that I got online and filled out the paperwork to be a foster parent so that I could take them off my caseload, because obviously I can't treat them and foster them, but reach out to the state and see if there was any way I could get them in my care. And I'll never forget the day that this woman came in that was going to be their new foster mom. And my fists were clenched. I was ready for battle. I was like, come at me. Like, if you even cross me for 1 second, and if you mistreat these little girls, I am ready to come out swinging. And we went into one of the rooms, and without me even having to say anything, I witnessed her interactions with them. And I heard her tell the one little girl that was a little bit older, not the infant, but I heard her tell her that she was safe, and I heard her say, "I love you." And I realized that, like, that was the first time I'd seen a caregiver or heard somebody say that. And obviously it was a new situation, but it felt so genuine. And I even told her, I'm like, I came into this so protective and like fierce mama bear for these little girls. I was ready to fight you, honestly, because I am so protective over them and they just need love and safety. And I could feel her energy that she was going to love them. And at the moment, it was just a fostering situation. But over time, it got to a place where the parents' rights were fully revoked, and they were up for adoption. And she and her husband adopted both of them. And I got invited to their adoption party. And I remember while I was there, I was talking to another mom that is friends with her. And she was explaining to me that this woman and her husband had had a lot of fertility issues, and they'd been trying to have kids for probably, 4 years on their own at this point in time. And they kept watching their friends around them have kids and surpass them in this thing that was so important to them. And she said, and look now, they're fully caught up. They worried the last 4 years that they were falling so far behind. And now their backyard is full of all their friends' kids, and they have a now, 3-year-old and almost 1-year-old, and no time was ever wasted. And in your mind, it feels like there's no way this thing I wanted 5 years ago could come in now and catch me up to 5 years ago. But I promise you, if you allow, it will come in a way that might not make sense to our logical mind. But then when we look around, we're like, oh my gosh, there was so much working behind the scenes for me. There was so much happening and being wielded and orchestrated that I never could have imagined. And here I am outside with my 2 new little daughters, thinking that the last 5 years have been wasted. And really, they were being seasoned and brought into my life in this way I never could have imagined. And now we're sitting here with our close friends who have kids the same age, and we're all caught up. And in those situations, it's like, how could you deny the forces that are working behind the scenes for you? And when you're willing to just accept the beauty that's about to be brought in, your life will change in direct proportion to your belief that it can change, and your belief in the speed in which it can change, and your belief in which the magnitude in which it can change. When you believe and truly start to vibrate at the frequency of everything you know you're deserving of, everything you know you already have and is working behind the scenes tirelessly to be brought into your life, it feels so good to start co-creating then, and to just be like, I don't even have to worry about these things that are fluttering in and out of my mind and inviting me to this space that is not helpful, because I already have everything I could ever want. And I understand that time is passing, and I understand that it might not make sense to the average person if I say, like, my babies are already on their way to me, and it doesn't matter what I'm doing in this moment as long as it's not blocking that from coming through. As long as I'm open everything is happening for me. And I think that situation of standing out there with them and watching their little girls run around in the backyard with all of their friends' kids was so healing to something inside of me, because my subconscious was able to see, to believe through them that that's possible. If you had told them the year before, well, just so you know, you're going to have a 3-year-old next year, they'd be like, that doesn't make sense. But you guys, magic doesn't make sense. And the beauty of magnetism and abundance doesn't always make sense. In fact, it rarely does. And when we try to make sense of it, we block it. We don't allow the right things to come through. And so I would just encourage you, if there is something that you want and you've decided in your mind, not going to happen for me, not possible, no way, no how, get rid of those limiting beliefs. Weed that garden in your mind so that the flowers can grow. Get rid of those, because the moment that we release those limiting beliefs and we truly believe on like a deep cellular biological level that we have everything we could ever want, we start vibrating at that frequency, and the most amazing things get brought in that make you pinch yourself and be like, what the heck? Like, this doesn't even make sense, which again, it's not going to. It's not going to make sense in the most beautiful, amazing, magical way. And that's why we can't sit and try to make sense of the things that don't, or try to control the outcomes that are actually going to be better than we ever could have imagined. I also want to talk and kind of like segue into the difference between intuition and fear, or intuition and anxiety, or intuition and another maybe process within you, anger, or a feeling that is not productive. Intuition is never going to hurt you. It's never going to scare you. It's never going to make you feel frantic, or as though if you do not make a decision in this moment, right this exact second, something bad is going to happen. Now, I'll give you an example of how both of those feelings can almost coexist, and how intuition can be present, and so can fear, anxiety, whatever you may say. So I've got a good friend, Angie. She's been on the podcast before, on my former podcast, but I'm going to have her on this one. I can't wait to have her back. And she was telling a story of intuition, of kind of being in a situation in another country where she was not 100% sure about her whereabouts. And she started getting a feeling of this man that was following her. And very calmly, she felt like, you should cross the road. You should go faster. You should pick up your steps. And again, that's intuition. Intuition is almost just like a knowing. It's like you're driving down the street and the light is bright green and maybe just barely turning yellow, and something just says like, you should stop now. And you do, very non-questioning of it. You're just like, oh, it's a knowing, I should stop. And you do. And then lo and behold, you see somebody runs a red light right in front of you. And if you had not listened to that, it's those moments of like, oh my gosh, that was just almost so bad. And being embodied and being able to drop in allows us to connect with that so much deeper and get a lot more trusting of it. And so then it does start to just happen throughout our day, where we're able to really connect with our intuition, and we're really able to trust it and listen and not question it and not wonder. Because the thing is, when we listen to it, we often avoid negative outcomes, and we can't know what those would have been if we didn't listen. And so it's like almost a parallel universe moment where it's like, I should wait a few minutes before I leave. Or I'm, again, I stop at this red light. And maybe that is one way that we could actually see what could have maybe happened. You have this feeling that you just shouldn't quite go yet. And then you see someone and you're like, oh my gosh, that's it right in front of you, where you almost just missed something, or you missed something that just almost happened that wasn't great. But a lot of the times, if you have a feeling of even just like, I'm not going to go to that, and I have a deep knowing and understanding that I don't need to be at that, or there's a reason I don't need to be at that, we often don't know why, because we then don't go, or we listen. And so there's a side of that can be a little bit, again, like we can be invited to say like, that's dumb, I should just go to those things or do those things. But instead, I think honoring and trusting those feelings when they happen are really important. And again, the inverse of that is like, maybe you're getting ready to fly somewhere, and all of a sudden you start thinking about all the social media things you've been seeing lately about freaky things happening on planes. And you start to kind of like panic and like see headlines and envision yourself in those negative headlines and things like that. That is anxiety and fear in such a different way than that deep knowing of like, I need to push this trip a day, or I need to do something different in this way. Like, and it's just this deep knowing that is very peaceful. I think that even in situations that are high stakes and that may be causing us to avoid something really big happening, the knowing feels peaceful. And that's another reason why it's kind of easy to ignore. And yet there are moments where when we ignore it, we are often then shown the thing that was going to happen or did end up happening. And then we almost question, like, I mean, I had this weird feeling we shouldn't do that. Or I almost said we should just go to here instead, or we should not go do that thing you just suggested. And we almost question, like, well, was that intuition? Because, like, am I crazy? Was I really about to say that? Or it didn't really feel like urgent. Intuition often is not urgent. It's such a whisper and it's like a calm knowing. And so I think that that's why it's also often hard to strengthen. It's not going to like smack you in the head, should have had a V8, and then oh, okay, that was what it was. It's so peaceful that it's often easy to not listen to. And then we become so detached from it and find ourselves in this space where we don't even know yes or no, which kind of brings me into my next aspect of playing and co-creating and being curious with our intuition. And I shared this on another episode, so you may have already heard it, but just listen again because you can never hear it too many times. There's an exercise I love to help us determine in our bodies where we feel yeses and where we feel nos, and learn how to start strengthening that. And this is something kind of like fun and silly that you can play with in the car, when you're bored, at a light, at a, whatever, when you're in a waiting room. Like, you can sit there and kind of play with it and help your body understand that you are listening, and help the universe understand that you are listening. So think about something that is like a certain yes for you. Maybe it's like, I love the beach, or I love having like a little square of dark chocolate and red wine, or I love this one specific book or movie. Something that is this undoubted, undeniable, absolute hell yes. Okay. Close your eyes and think about that phrase in your mind. I love the beach. Where does that feeling happen in your body? And what does it feel like? And you have to be grounded and tune in and really be open to feeling it, because it's one of those things, like, if you blink, you're going to miss it. But when I take a deep breath and I settle into my body and I close my eyes and I say, oh, I love the beach, mine feels almost like fluttery butterflies in my tummy, and I feel it kind of flutter through my body. It feels fluttery. It feels light and airy and fluttery. And then you can do it with something else. You can think of, I love my dog's cuddles in the morning. I love this memory of being on the beach for my friend's wedding in Portugal and watching the sunset. I love this one specific Chinese restaurant. I love, whatever it may be, this person in my life, this experience I had, and keep sitting in that and feeling the feeling grow and kind of evolve, and take a deep breath and release anywhere you're holding tension in your body. Often we're like sucking our bellies in so much all the time. Let your belly kind of just fall and flow, and notice if you feel it any differently. Does it change? Does it grow? Does it strengthen? And then as you navigate your day, pay attention to that feeling and see if it flutters back in, and see if you notice it in situations, and see if you feel like there's even like a little interaction you have with somebody that you run into at the coffee shop. And if you feel that yes in your body, that may be something that's inviting you to kind of be curious about it or lean into it a little more. And then in the inverse of that, a lot of times I like to use almost like not a negative, but like I'll say something that is untrue to feel a no in my body. Because obviously, if you say like, I really dislike cilantro, that's a true statement. And so that may feel kind of like a yes, or you might just feel like resistance to it because you're like, ooh, the word cilantro is gross to me. But you will feel a no if you close your eyes and drop into your body and say, ooh, I love cilantro. For me, it's like in my chest, and it just kind of feels like constricting. Like when I think it and say it, it just is like it just feels like a little bit of like a pull, and it's not excruciating. It's not going to take me to my knees. It's not going to make me scream out in pain, but it is enough that it's like, I can really acknowledge like that is for sure a no. And so with that, you can start to kind of play with that as well, where you continue doing it. Like maybe it's somebody that there was a lot of trauma and, like, let's just say a person from your past that you were in a romantic relationship with, closing your eyes and dropping in and going like, oh, I like just wish I was still with so-and-so, or I wish they were next to me right now. Maybe think of somebody that you're a little bit estranged from, or you have some distance intentionally, and be like, I wish they would walk in the door right now. Where does that come up in your body? And when you can start to connect with that feeling, you can also learn to start trusting it when you have interactions with people and maybe they didn't do anything wrong, but you get that little catch in your chest, or you get that little tightness in your belly or in your throat. You feel something, a little hitch somewhere. And it may not be abort mission, run away from that person forever, block them out of your life, but it may be, I'm curious about that. I'm interested in that. How can I listen and pay attention to that and figure out maybe where that's coming from or why that's there? And again, it saves us from like going in blind, all full speed ahead, and then we get burned, or a situation happens where we're like, man, I had a weird feeling about them from the beginning. And it just allows us to like be embodied, to be able to be our own counsel, to be able to trust ourselves and our own intuition and our own wisdom. We carry so many answers within us. And so often we are so disconnected and we're seeking counsel from everyone else, or so-and-so said this person's great, so I must just blindly believe that. And it's like, no, that ain't it, right? There are some other ways that you can kind of tap into your intuition. Morning pages, or just like free writing, is one of the best ways. It's amazing what lives within us and is able to come out when we just allow it to. So sitting down and just kind of free writing for even just a few minutes and seeing what surfaces and what comes out can often be a lot of clues into some areas that we may need to give a little bit more attention, or maybe deserving of a little bit of curiosity or awareness. And so free writing, I think, is really good. Meditation obviously can be really good. That can be kind of confronting initially, just to like find the quiet within our mind. But even if it's like, I'm just going to sit in silence for 5 minutes every day and just like be, and maybe it's not silence and your eyes closed. Maybe you're just looking out the window. Maybe you set a timer and you just allow a little bit of space and time for input, for independent thoughts, because so often we go through the day and we're just like intaking, and we don't even create space for anything new to come through. I also really, really love part of the Yothera method, and kind of one of their tools that they'll utilize is closing your eyes, grounding, and kind of dropping into your body, asking yourself or feeling into an area that is asking for some attention. A lot of really common spaces would be the heart. For me, it's almost always the heart, and I'll end up putting both my hands over my heart and just like feeling that pressure and dropping into it. For a lot of people that are maybe in a situation where they're feeling not super heard, or they're feeling either silenced or misunderstood, it'll be the throat, which is like the throat chakra where your voice comes from. And so putting your hand there, and it's safe, it's you know, you can trust that. Putting your hand there and closing your eyes and dropping in, and then just asking yourself the simple question, what do I need to know? What do I need to know right now? And allowing whatever it is to come up with no judgment. Sometimes it's, you don't need to know anything. You just need to keep allowing and trusting. Sometimes it's, you need to know that you are loved and safe within yourself, and the area in which you are trying to seek validation and love and safety is not going to give it to you. And you can drop in and know that you can give yourself that love and safety. And you also can release this area in which you are seeking, and it's not coming back in. There's so much wisdom that our body holds, and we don't ask ourselves. We may ask everyone else. We may seek counsel from every single person around us and ask them, what do I need to know? What do I need to know? What do I need to know? What should I do? But 9.9 times out of 10, when we sit down and drop in and ask ourselves what we need to know, we already hold the answers. And maybe we're not ready to hear them, and that's okay. Maybe we're not ready to absorb what it is that our body is trying to tell us. But I will tell you that the more we disconnect from it and we don't listen to it and we stay estranged from ourselves, the more ways it's going to come in and try to tell us, through sickness and illness and inflammation, through insomnia, through intrusive thoughts, through anxiety and depression. And limiting beliefs and doubt and shame and all of those things that are just going to keep knocking and knocking and knocking and throwing rocks at the windows of our heart until it breaks, until we finally open the door, until we're brave enough to look at it. And there's so much beauty that's on the other side of it, because then we listen and then we have more wisdom and information, and then we can do so much with that once we have it in our minds and our hearts. And it's pretty magical and beautiful. Co-creation is a two-way street. It is not, I'm going to lay down on the train tracks and hope something comes and saves me, and I'm just going to imagine and expect that my dream life is going to come through. Co-creation means taking inspired action, aligned action, intentional action. It means that we're not just sitting there wishing, we're aligning. We are opening the door when new opportunities knock. We are aware and present. We are open-hearted, open-minded, open-vesseled, right? If we close everything off and then we think everything meant for me is just going to break its way in, the things that will break their way in, I will tell you right now, are not for you. And I will tell you right now, are only going to do like more damage to what is trying to open within us, because it's going to invite us to close even more and to live that self-fulfilling prophecy of, see, everything I let in hurts me. If what you're letting in are the things that are so incredibly persistent and don't take no for an answer and keep going, not listening to your boundaries, not respecting what you're saying, that's not the thing that's meant for you. When you can get to that space of wholeness and open yourself up, beautiful things will start to flow through. Beautiful things will start to flutter in and out. And I'll also tell you that in those moments of opening, and part of opening is opening our grasp, letting go of the things that we have been holding on to and trying to force and wield and control, we may find that things change. People leave. Relationships end, jobs end, friendships end, things end and release, only to create more space in our life for the right things to come through, for the right people, places, situations, opportunities. And boy, will they come through when you are finally ready to release and let go and allow. It will come through. And until then, you will hold on and exhaust yourself holding on to something that is not yours to keep. And you will block all of the things that are trying to come through from even being able to be in your orbit so that you can see them. You know, the people that are like, don't end one relationship until they've overlapped and they've got something else on deck. That is one of the most surefire ways to block a manifestation from coming through, because you are trying to know better than the creative source around us. You are trying to say, I'm going to have a safety net, so I'm going to get this person on deck and I'm going to start having an emotional affair with them and make sure that they're ready to jump and pounce when I tell them to. Then I'm going to end this because now I have something else to jump into. And you're like creating these little lily pads across the river, and it's getting you nowhere. You're just going deeper and deeper out into the water and so far from where you're meant to be. Sometimes it takes removing the lily pad from underneath you and falling into the water and letting whatever is going to happen, and not having a plan B and a safety net and all of these things lined up that are actually out of desperation because that's what you're putting out there, that you fall into the water and you open your eyes and you look around and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm down on the ocean floor, the most quiet, calm, amazing, beautiful place I was always meant to go. And I have been struggling and suffering to stay afloat on a path that leads nowhere. And I was always meant to just trust the fall and trust what was going to come from that. And it's easier said than done. And I'm telling you right now, like anyone listening, I've been in a similar place that you are right now. I've white knuckled it. I've forced it. I've been drug kicking and screaming into the next chapter. I have done it all. And I'm finally in this place where I'm just like, oof, man, I'm on fire. Man, I'm magnetic. Man, I am so trusting that there is nothing that's going to be brought into my life that's not meant for me, and there's nothing that's going to be taken away that was meant for me. If it is for me, it cannot miss me. And all I have to do is keep taking aligned action and inspired action and creative action and intentional action and trust. And that feels so much better than trying to control everything, which I've done for the majority of my life. And it's worked out in some ways. And here I am, and it's got me to really cool areas and opportunities and whatever. But it's pretty remarkable to think about how much faster I could have arrived to some of the things I'm doing now had I released and trusted and allowed and not tried so hard to force and wield. And I'm giving you permission to do the same. And it doesn't have to be a gigantic flip your life upside down. Sometimes it's just releasing a thought. Sometimes it's just accepting a thought of worthiness and of love and of what's out there. And I understand that sometimes like really living within the belief that you have everything you could ever want feels scary, because it means that like those things could either be taken away, or doubt is able to come in and say those things may never happen. And it's easier to just say those things may never happen. But living your life and saying those things may never happen blocks them from happening. And living your life in a way of saying, oh my gosh, I can't wait for like this chapter to come in. I can't wait for motherhood. I can't wait for partnership. I can't wait to just be completely slaying this community I'm creating. I can't wait for when this opportunity aligns and I have this dream job that every day I wake up and I'm so excited to work on and to pour into and to go to. I can't wait for this trip to happen that right now I don't have the funds for, but like, man, it's on that vision board and I'm looking at it all the time and I know I'm going to be there, and I'm feeling the feeling of walking down these streets that I have pinned on my vision board and seeing it with my own eyes, and I know it's going to happen. Those thoughts will get you there, period. And the thoughts of it's okay if it doesn't happen will block you from ever getting there. If you only take one thing from listening to this, let it be that. Monitor your thoughts. Ask yourself if what you're thinking is getting you to where you actually intend to go, or if it's blocking you from getting where you're intending to go. Because it's only doing one or the other. There is not much in between. And our minds are so powerful that we are often blocking so much from coming through without even realizing it. With the trust no one, everyone's going to betray you, everyone's going to leave you, don't ever need anyone, make sure that you have all of these things sorted and you have 95 safety nets, all these things. It's like, we are signaling to the universe, I don't need the thing I really want. I'm fine if I don't get it. I don't actually need it. I don't actually want it that bad, because all my energy is going to proving to the world that I don't actually need it. What would it feel like to let yourself sit in the feeling of desire, of wanting, of believing you have it? And you might not have it right now, but you're going to have it. You're going to get it. What would that feel like? To close your eyes and imagine walking down the aisle. Imagine that feeling the morning of maybe a ceremony, maybe an elopement, maybe a commitment to yourself, whatever it is that you are kind of hiding from. What would it feel like to close your eyes and sit in the feeling of how you want to and will feel when that day comes? What would it feel like to close your eyes and imagine looking at a positive pregnancy test with your partner when that you so desperately are trying to expand your family? What would it feel like to close your eyes and think about sitting at your computer, logging on for the day to the dream job that you are so excited to be working on, and hop onto this meeting so energized and tell everyone what you've been working on and share your wins and your successes and hit that goal or get President's Club or whatever it is that you are telling yourself it's okay if that doesn't happen? What would it feel like to say, I can't wait for this to happen? I'm going to sit in that feeling and I know it's going to happen and I can't wait for it to happen, and I'm patient in the process, but there's not a single ounce of me that believes that it's not going to happen. I don't know if any of you guys, if I'm going to try to cut this clip, but there was like this little glimmery white, like feathery thing that just flew across the screen right as I was saying that. And it was a little wink, a little note, a little sign from my dad. Hi, Dad. But that what I'm talking about is aligned and true and can be believed, and like a little wink that everything I'm saying right now is something I can believe as well. Everything is happening for me. It's not happening to me. It's happening behind the scenes often for that dream life to come through. And so is yours. And the difference between getting there and not getting there is just simply believing it. And then co-creating, knowing it's a two-way street, taking aligned action, answering the call when that opportunity comes through, maybe even pausing and allowing it to look different than you thought it was going to. Not having your mind so dead set on it being this one specific way, and instead being like, oh my gosh, like what if this though? Or what if I allowed this to come in? And what's the worst that could happen? And every opportunity brings us growth or lessons or blessings or networking or meeting someone. And it's often like, okay, this job kind of fell into my lap and it feels interesting because I wasn't looking, which, hello, when you're not looking, if something comes through, answer the door, because that is often when it really is like this, a gift. It's a blessing. It's something that comes, it flutters in. And just because we weren't looking, you know, I'll give you another example. I turned my LinkedIn. I used to have open to work only to recruiters. And it was for this specific list of jobs that I was like, you know what? If any of those come through, I'm just like at least going to entertain the opportunity for it. On a Monday, I turned it off because I was like, I'm good. I don't really need to be open to work in these. I was getting a lot of messages from recruiters and I was not as, you know, interested in it any longer. That was a Monday. And on Wednesday, I had a friend send me a job posting and she was like, you would be perfect for this. And what did I do? I explored it. I threw my name in the hat. I was like, this will only lead to positive things because it found me. I attracted this. I did not chase it. I did not hunt it down. It fell into my lap. And so it will only bring good things and I can just trust it, explore it. I don't know what the outcome for that is. I don't know what the reason is, and I don't have to. That's not my job to figure out. But I answered the door when the call came through. I answered the phone when the call came through. I answered the door when the knock came. You all know what I'm trying to say. And I just would encourage you to like drop in and ask, are you open to opportunities? Are you open to answering that call or that door? Are you stonewalled? Do you have guards around every single thing and you're trying to control it, or you're trying to only stay in the comfort zone of like, well, I'll answer this call or I'll do this or whatever it may be? Are you putting yourself in positions and situations to even have those things come through? You got to get honest with yourself sometimes and really be diligent in being an open vessel for some of this. And then I promise you, it will just flow. We need to, in the same breath as we are so open and receptive and calling in, simultaneously break free from one, the need for external validation, and two, the feeling that rejection is any type of a reflection on us or anything that we are or aren't doing. The first one, the need for external validation, causes us to take inspired or aligned action that is not meant to be ours. It is my parents will think I'm great if I finally get this degree or get this job or land this thing. Or my, siblings who have always thought that I was just nothing to them. I'm the baby of the family. Nothing matters or whatever. If I get this like accolade, if I do this thing, they'll finally see me differently. If I am finally just chosen by a man, my parents or my aunt or whoever will stop asking and I'll finally be worthy. All of that external validation seeking creates us to, or causes us to seek out opportunity that is for the wrong intention. It is to get an outcome for someone else. And all that's going to do over and over and over again is bring in some of that intuitive whisper of headaches, not being able to sleep, feeling sick, all those types of things, because it's not meant for us. And it's often not until we just release all of the validation from around us and recognize that we are so worthy internally and ask ourselves like what we actually want. What would that dream day life look like? That we can go, oh my gosh, I have been putting all of this time, energy, and attention into like researching this thing or whatever it may be, gaining this thing that I don't even think I want. What are the reasons for your desires? What are the intentions and what's the depth behind them? And if we can uncover that, sometimes we can then create the space for it to come through in the way that it was always meant to come through. I'm sorry if you can hear my dog barking. She's losing her mind. Hopefully she stops soon. Lemon, hey, Good, come. Good. Sit. Sit. Come here. Sit. The next thing is recognizing that if something doesn't work out, rejection is redirection. Rejection is protection. We can't allow one closed door to cause us to just go, oh, that's it. See, I'm not worthy. See, there it is right there. I'm not, whatever it may be. We have to really, really deeply trust that anything that is happening is for us again. It's not to us. And that if it's not this, it's something better. I say that multiple times a day. If not this, better. Something better is coming along. And it's been true every single time. And the more that I've been able to trust that, when I even sometimes have something really, really, really great, it's like this shiny carrot that is being offered to me, but something in me is telling me this isn't it. The sooner I'm able to just release and allow, the sooner the thing comes through that is yes, this is it. And what's really crazy is right as I was saying that, I had a situation in my mind I'm not going to share because it's very personal, but I looked up and it was at 55 minutes and 55 seconds. So right when I glanced up 5555, that's the repeated number that I needed in that moment to recognize what I was saying. And as I'm talking, here's something crazy. I'm going to digress for a minute. As I'm talking, I'm telling you guys about this, the faster that you're able to release something, the sooner the right thing is going to come through. I had a very personal situation that fluttered into my mind that I was thinking of that, again, I'm holding my cards close on right now. But that's what I was actually thinking about, because women are amazing and we can talk and think about other things at the same time and have 95 tabs open. But as that specific, I'm going to say person came into my mind, I looked up and it was 5555. And even as I'm recording a podcast episode to put out to you guys with this totally different intention in mind, I just got a ping and a yes and an intuitive drop in and download of this thing I just thought of. I got clarity that yes, this is what I'm supposed to be doing and this is what I'm supposed to be allowing. And that it is that simple. But if you are not paying attention, you're going to miss it. And now the peace and calmness that I have within me that I didn't even know I needed clarity on was just gifted to me in the middle of my day, in the middle of doing something else. That's how quiet it can be and how powerful it is, because it is always there. Always. It's amazing, you guys. It's so magic. Rejection is protection. Rejection is redirection. Believe that, believe that, believe that. That's all I'm going to say about it. But please believe that within your bones. When something is taken from your life, say thank you and exhale it and release it. Truly, truly release it. The magic of detaching from the outcome is that everything we are meant to have in our life will be brought to us because we will not be clinging to the wrong things. I've done an episode where I spoke a lot, I think it was my birthday episode, a lot about the law of detachment. I would encourage you to go listen to that. I'm not going to dive back into it just because I already have, but I'll do a very, very brief kind of overview. For me, the way that I view the law of detachment is I can care very deeply. I can desire something. I don't have to act like I don't care. I don't have to put on a show. I can feel all the feelings I feel around something. And I can know that if it is taken from my life, it wasn't meant for me, and I will be okay. That's it. That's the beauty of it for me. It's the deep, deep trust in knowing that what's meant for me won't miss me. If not this, then something better. I can care a whole lot. I can be who I am. I can do my best and I can show up, and I don't have to pretend I don't care and be this mysterious black cat that doesn't care about anything. I can care a whole lot, and I can also open my palms and release anything that is not meant for me. And it is a superpower, and it feels so good. So good. Energetically, you guys, when you start to embody that, the wrong things will be removed from your life so quickly, and the right things will come in just as quickly, and it feels amazing. Trust it. Trust it. I think that one additional thing I will say about kind of the detachment is that there is a big shift of I need this to happen versus I trust this or something better will come. The end. Just reframe your thoughts into that. I need this. I need them to choose me. I have to have this job. I have to take that away and say, I trust that it's this or something better, and let it go. The last thing I want to say is that it is so incredibly important to own your power as a creator and co-creator. You need to recognize that you are not just like a participant in life. You're not just, again, strapped to the train tracks. You're not just laying there letting things happen to you. You are a co-creator. And that is very, very empowering and also confronting, because it means you are accepting and bringing awareness to the fact that you have co-created everything that has happened in your life so far. And it might not be to the point of, what I always use examples of is like deep, deep loss. So like, did I co-create my dad dying? No. But was I a co-creator in the events that led up to it and the events that followed, the way that I handled from it, the resilience I gained, the perspective I gained, the love I gained, the empathy and compassion and understanding for others that I gained? Abso-fucking-lutely. Was I a co-creator in my fiance cheating on me 7 days before a wedding we were supposed to have? No. But did I co-create every experience that led up to that and every experience that happened after? Absolutely. And do I look back now and actually feel incredibly empowered by the fact that when you know better, you can do better? When you learn from situations, you do not make those same decisions again. And maybe you do, and you have to learn the same lesson a few times. Maybe you're finding a repeated theme. Maybe it feels like you're the common denominator in something you don't want to be the common denominator in anymore. Well, then I would urge you and I would challenge you to zoom out and look at the way in which you are the common denominator and really do your best to understand it and do your best to see, like, what is it that is a theme in your life that is repeating and why. It's so, so, so empowering to take your power back and recognize that you are a co-creator. It is not just happening to you. There is also a major power within the gratitude of already acting as if. Acting as if you already have the things that you desire, walking around the world as though you're already wearing the hat that you so desperately want to wear, the title, the job, the experience, the trip, the relationship, the parenthood, any of those things. Navigating the world and acting as if is almost like the reason why I think fake it till you make it is a thing that is spoken about. What it means is you are embodying the feeling of that. And then because of that, it is brought into your life because you are already acting as if. If you leave here and there's one thing that you do as an aligned action, I would urge you to just start acting as if. It feels so good and it feels so much better than acting as if it's not going to happen. And it frees and creates space and creates ascension where you can look around and recognize, like, you're acting as if, and then it is. And then it just is. And it feels so, so, so good. When things don't go as planned on this path, you can reframe all of those setbacks as redirections. Thank Source, God, the universe for that redirection, even if you don't fully understand it. And then continue to act as if. Then continue to take aligned action and inspired action and creative action. Then continue to trust, continue to release and detach and let go and allow. And know that you are so, so worthy of everything your heart desires. And first and foremost, you are worthy and deserving of saying them out loud, of speaking them into existence, of recognizing how freaking powerful your thoughts and your actions and your mindset and your beliefs and your dreams are, and how they often cannot work for you if you are locking them away because you're too scared that you won't get it if you say it out loud. Try a different way. Try speaking about it as though you already have it. Try speaking about it as though you can't wait for that thing to come through because you know it's yours. Try it. If you've practiced X amount of years of your life doing it the other way, what's the harm in trying a different way? And we all know that insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different outcome. So maybe change the way you're doing it and see if the outcome shifts as well. I feel so excited to be sitting here with you guys right now with this trust and knowing and message that has felt so in need of me sharing. And it feels so good to be in this space where I am just like, holy cow, you guys, it is all happening and it is wild. And it doesn't look the way I thought it was going to look, but it's better. And it feels better than I could have imagined, better than when I was faking those feelings and being like, this is what it's going to feel like. You guys, it's better than that. And let that be inspiration for you to start embodying those things, knowing they'll come through, knowing you'll get to sit there and feel what it really feels like because you're going to have it. And please, 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 for the love of all things holy, reach out to me and tell me what those things are when they come through. I want to celebrate them with you and share in those successes. Please consider joining the membership community. Check it out on rednailenergy.com. And there's a whole board for that, for manifestation attraction and for good things are always happening to me, so that you can tell other people and share with other people all those things and how they've come through. But please email me, hello@rednailenergy.com, DM me on Instagram, and just let me know. Like, I love nothing more than watching people speak their dreams into reality and believe in themselves and believe in that their highest self already has everything that she or he could ever want. And I'm on your side. I'm riding the wave with you. And I'm telling you right now, it feels so good to release my hands and the fists I've clenched so tight, to allow, to trust, and to receive. And boy, am I receiving right now. So, as always, you are so loved and seen. You're never alone. You are so worthy and so deserving of any of those things that are fluttering in your mind right now. And in order to get them, you're going to have to be brave enough to release the things that are holding you down and holding you back. And I am here every step of the way. Once you have joined the Red Nail Energy community, and that's you right now if you're listening, you are part of my little tribe, you'll never be alone again. So please don't hesitate to reach out if you feel inclined. And just know that I'm rooting for you. I love you guys so much. I'm so excited to keep riding these waves together. It's getting good, guys. It's getting so, so, so good. I will catch you on the next episode.